Hi, my name is Ryan. Today I'd like to talk about the narrative and character arcs of Uncharted 4 and how it created emotionally resonant moments. One part in particular forced me to confront underlying personal fears. First I'll talk about the sequences involved in this revelation. Then I'll talk about how Uncharted 4 scaffolds narrative moments which create emotionally resonant plot points. If you haven't already guessed, I will be going over some major spoiler territory for the game, so you have been warned. There is one more thing that is important to acknowledge going forward. There are many ways we can talk about the Uncharted series, and many things to talk about. For this particular point, I will be sidestepping the massive incongruity between the idea of Nathan Drake deserving a happy ending and the literal hundreds of people he's killed on the way there. There's a certain amount of suspension of disbelief that certain works of fiction require of us, and the Uncharted series is no different in this regard, but that's a topic for another time, so let's dive right in. In the second half of the game, Nathan is knocked out and has a flashback to a childhood memory of him and his brother breaking into a mansion to retrieve their mother's journals. Entering through a top floor window, they go down through the house, scouring it for the journals. This is a challenge given the sheer volume of possessions that have been collected by the owner of the mansion. Ancient vases, suits of armour and sarcophagi line the walls, whilst books precariously balance on every surface. Given Nathan's career trajectory, he couldn't have picked a more apt house to break into. But the house also tells another story, of the owner's correspondence and eventual marriage to one of her peers in the field. This marriage would eventually crumble, with the mansion owner Evelyn becoming estranged from her child and living alone in the house. The reasons for this are a presumed obsession with her career, sacrificing everything for that pursuit. Upon the discovery of the last letter from Edmund to his mother Evelyn, the house becomes much more empty than its possessions would suggest. A burned up letter in the fireplace shows Evelyn's reluctance to sell any of these possessions. The meaning of these possessions can no longer be attached to monetary value, and more importantly are bereft of any social value. They are only meaningful in Evelyn's reflected pursuit of them, and this pursuit has resulted in her isolated existence. When she dies, the isolated meaning behind her exploits and possessions goes with her. It is a sad and lonely end. Everything in this chapter is constructed in a way that it communicates this idea of how empty this life has become despite the accumulated treasures. The lighting and silence of the chapter echo this powerfully across the corridors and rooms of the mansion. It confronts the player, and admittedly myself, with the idea that your life can be hollow if relationships are abandoned in the pursuit of material goods. Your most amazing accomplishments are wasted if they only satiate your individualistic desires. The fear of a hollow life is ultimately what drives the character arc of Nathan in Uncharted 4, and it is a powerful one that reaches out from the screen. This mansion sequence stands in stark contrast to the epilogue. In this, the daughter of Nathan and Elena, Cassie, explores the Dragonfisher family home looking for her parents. Atmospherically, the epilogue is a far cry from the dark and lonely mansion chapter. It's well lit, bringing the lived-in mess of Cassie's room into clear view. Work, projects and letters are scattered around the house, half finished as if someone is about to come right back to it. It is immediately populated with fish tank and, most prominently, the family doggo, Vicky, who leads Cassie around the house. The house isn't so much populated with meaningless artifacts as it is the memories and relationships of the people who have pursued them. It's not a museum for one like Evelyn's mansion, but a family bungalow where items are stored in threes, accentuating the positive relationship this family has. This beach house sequence is the polar opposite to the mansion. This sequence shows how Nathan has escaped Evelyn's sad fate and has acquired meaning in both his personal life and his professional life. However, to get from the mansion sequence to the epilogue takes hard narrative work. To go on this most recent adventure, Nathan has lied to his wife and returned to a life of crime and thievery that he had sworn to abandon. Suspicious over his excuses, Elena tracks him down and finds out the truth, understandably feeling betrayed about the whole situation. Fast forward to when Nathan wakes up from his flashback and Elena is there to rescue him. At the point where Nathan gets knocked out, his trajectory mirrors that of Evelyn. What follows is a series of pained and frosty interactions between Nathan and Elena. It takes several chapters for them to work out the problems and to grow as characters. Certain narrative techniques are used to establish the state of the relationship. In Uncharted 4, you can approach side characters and press triangle to engage in a conversation. Nathan can try to spark up a conversation with Elena, but is frequently shot down and reminded of the mistake he has made. This is an interesting switch, since other characters are more than receptive to these conversational prompts. As always in this series, cutscenes are used to get close-ups of the characters and the performance of the actors, where disappointment and frustration can be communicated directly instead of the player potentially missing it in an offhand comment whilst climbing. There's also a driving sequence with a piano track playing over the top, where conversation is halted and the looks both Nathan and Elena give each other tell their own story. The importance of the mansion sequence is to mirror Nathan's own obsession with Evelyn's. It's a cautionary tale to show what will happen to Nathan if he continues on this path. In these chapters with Elena, he is confronted with the very prospect of that. He's reminded over and over again of her capability and intelligence, and increasingly laments his decision to jeopardize this relationship. Nathan has operated from a position of selfishness, considering only the prospect of his own loss and lying to protect himself. Admitting this and ultimately rejecting his obsession steers Nathan clear of both the pirate thief Avery's end and Evelyn's lonely existence. Of course, this isn't something that can be fixed immediately with a few quips and a sincere look whilst driving. Maintaining a relationship where trust has been breached takes time and hard work. Naughty Dog showed off the start of that work in these few chapters, which is what made the juxtaposition between the mansion chapter and the epilogue a justified narrative progression. Nathan's character arc in Uncharted 4 is developed in an impressive way for a series that is focused more on its pulp adventure feeling. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to watch my previous video on Gods Will Be Watching and narrative intensity, then click on the link in the video. If you'd like to be notified when my next video releases, then click on the subscribe button and the bell icon.